Welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we're going back in the day with a Kiwi legend. He's an Auckland man, a Warriors original, played over in the UK for Warrington, also represented Tonga. It's the one and only Duane Mann. How are you, brother?
Very good, Dave. Very good on a wet, windy weekend, but all is well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Here, it's not much different down here in Christchurch, actually. Windy as hell today. We've had snow the last couple of days on the mountains, and it's cold, man. It's cold.
Mate, I'll give one. I'll give an early serve to my mainlander mates. It's always like that down your way of the woods. It's always sunny up here in Auckland.
Oh, speaking of Auckland, man, I hear you've been pretty involved with Auckland Rugby League again these days. What's happening there?
Yeah, I've been back working in league for just over a year now, and prior to that, had taken sort of 10, 11 years off and working on my golf handicap and
Yeah.
fishing and surfing skills, I say. But my boss says at home that doesn't pay the bills, so get back to work and get a proper job, you bum.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, we've got to listen to the boss, mate. Got to do what we're told.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Listen, but I don't know how well that listening part's going.
I'll keep working on it.
Yeah, mate.
Uh, so so what's happening up in Auckland these days? In the grassroots scene, how strong is it going at the moment?
Look, when the Warriors play well, we all benefit. And
Yep.
they're a professional team in the shop front window. And although the results have been we've been on the wrong side the last month or two, that slide. Hey, look, it's caught the imagination of people who are not necessarily rugby league people through and through. And so,
Okay.
what that relates to is, sold out crowds for every home game, which is,
Yeah.
a first in the NRL. And
Yeah.
whether it's regions like Auckland or in Canterbury and the Waikato, we're seeing the benefits of participation and growth. So, yeah, it's the opportunity there is, for Auckland in particular, to capitalise on that and support our clubs in the grassroots game. So, we
Yeah.
can take advantage of it and keep growing bigger and better.
Yeah, man. Oh, it'd be so good. It's so amazing. Like for me to grow up in the Waikato with everyone being rugby union fans, and I got a lot of shit at school for supporting league. Like it's amazing to see the country so behind rugby league now, and it's caught up. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And, you probably don't have to go too far, though, to get to Huntly, and you're in, die-hard rugby league country. So, even
Yeah,
though
man.
for you in the Waikato, we
Yeah,
know there's good, historical strength and traditional strength in the game across the regions.
yeah, man. It's good stuff. Now, just quietly, what would you think about a second NRL team here in the South Island? How do you Aucklanders feel about that?
Oh, look, I've changed my mind over the years several times, and sometimes I think, perhaps we don't have the financial sustainability and, the strength to really sort of, make a team not just competitive in one year, but, for the long run. And,
Yep.
but from a player depth and talent perspective, and we do need to bring in players from offshore, from whether that's from, Australia or the UK. The talent depth is really amazing and strong and deep here, in the country. So from a talent perspective, coaching staff, we've got a long way to go to keep improving. But I'm a strong believer in providing opportunity and pathways for our local coaches, trainers, managers, and all that backroom staff that's important. Marketing, commercial,
Yeah.
within to make a franchise successful. So in a long-winded way, yeah, hell yeah.
That'd be
Let's have
great,
another
wouldn't
team.
it? Oh, good stuff, man. Right, let's hope we see it one day. I've been yakking with Frank Endicott and a few others down here, and it's all pretty exciting chat for the future. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, and you've got some good people in the south there, and Frank in particular. Real strong supporter of Frank and anything that Frank gets behind. So, hey, look, and wish that group all the best.
Oh, awesome, dude. Right, Duane Mann. Let's rewind the clock. Where did you grow up? What was life like for a young Duane Mann?
Yeah, I've said before we're a rugby league family. I wouldn't say a tragic family. I'd go, sort of a rugby league through and through. But that aside, we're a sporting family. But yeah, my father, played rugby league, and his senior football really took off with the great Ponsonby team of the 70s and early 80s, and the likes of Roger Bailey and the Rota
Yeah,
brothers, Tommy Conroy, the late Mike McLennan, um, Wayne Robinson, Tommy Conroy. There's so many, and when I speak of Tommy Conroy, I heard Gary Freeman talk, on his
yeah,
show with you, and he paid tribute to the fitness support that he got from Tommy, and he's just one of those players, all those positive players that I idolised and looked up to. But yeah, for us, my older brothers, my two oldest brothers, started their junior football with Richmond until we moved out of Grey Lynn into
yeah.
across to West Auckland, and
Uh-huh.
my other brothers and myself all came up through the Glenora Bears.
Nice, nice. So was there a lot of backyard footy played back in the younger days? A lot of smashing each other over, over the back fence.
Yeah, typical of the many stories you hear of other guys and girls, with lots of siblings or a connected neighbourhood of family friends. Yeah, backyard footy involved not just our backyard, but the mate's backyard. Kick a ball over a fence over the neighbours, and you go over, continue the game, go round the washing line, over the swing or the slides, and out onto the road. You kick the
Yeah,
ball down the road, across the street, and you're lucky enough if the dog joined in and got a bite of it and scored a try in the corner. So yeah, we were definitely backyard footy.
awesome.
Kids have a wonderful way of leveling the playing field and
Yeah,
evening out the score. So whether it's you start off 6 against 3, and there's three big guys against 6 smaller guys, but you work out the score. You don't need parents involved or coaches
no,
involved, and you learn the skills, and you learn how to deal with a bloody nose,
yeah,
uh, ripped shirt, lost
yeah.
buttons. And because if you wait till you get home and you get told off by your mother or the neighbour, you're even in bigger trouble. So sort it out amongst yourself.
That's the one. What about the old halfway's the concrete path leading out to the washing line or something like that?
That's exactly right, mate. So yeah, you
Yes.
you you played those games too, and
Yeah,
whether it was with if you're lucky enough, if you had a proper footy ball, we had plenty of those. But we played. We were spoiled for parks, so I grew up around in Kelston, and
yeah,
there's six schools in Kelston, from primary, intermediate, secondary school, and blessed with playgrounds, sports fields, a local creek, the Foal, used to run through Kelston across to New Lynn, Avondale, and so us kids, we would play on land, on water, and find some way to keep us busy
yeah.
and out of trouble.
That's the one. That's the one. Stay out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it about the game when you started playing for the Glenora Bears? What was it about it that kept you coming back every week? What was the thing you loved the most?
Oh, apart from a good feed and all the treats you get along with
Yeah,
it, I wouldn't say I was just I was competitive right from the start, but we had close mates in the neighbourhood where I'm one of 5 siblings, and we've got a couple of other whāngai brother that grew up with us, um, and in our neighbourhood, we had lots of other families with siblings the same age. So, what kept us together is you had not just a mate your same age, but you had, an older or a younger mate, and you just mucked around together. Glenora, the junior teams back then, always fielded lots of teams right through. Always a strong club, a growing club,
yeah,
and the other part, we're lucky enough to have a lot of family friends who were our coaches and managers, in our neighbourhood. So, you felt comfortable, you felt at ease, you felt looked after. And, game day wasn't just about that immediate sort of game. It was all the things you did together after the
yeah.
game and before the game. Things like, we went on my first ever rugby league trip was actually, I think might have been down to Christchurch, and we were bulleted out with Papanui.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, this is like 10-year-olds and
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you all those sort of experiences, and we'd go away to Rotorua and Huntly and up the far north and all with our sport teams. But we would play softball in the summer and tennis and would play our league in the winter. And it was pretty much, all year round we were doing something as part of team sports.
Amazing, man. Terry Hermanson played for Papua Nui. That's amazing.
Yeah, I can't remember the guys that we played against then or stayed with, but they were all big. So
Yep.
I imagine Terry was the same thickness and same size he was as a 10-year-old kid. So I think we might have lost that game down there anyway. So yeah, no surprises.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. So you came right through the grades with Glenora. So what position did you mostly play, through your junior years coming through?
Yeah, mostly in the halves. We had some really good halfbacks in our junior teams. A guy named Terry Southgate and another guy Craig Motion made the rep teams consistently through the grades, um, and another guy Harry Weller was always talented through the grades. But I played, and then sort of I think I went into loose forward at some stage, and
Yeah.
but yeah, we in that Glenora, I guess the other thing was, the older guys at that time in club footy, you went along and you watched your senior teams when they played. So you'd have your kids games and then you go down and although it's the same thing happens today, it was like a big event and you didn't want to miss out. And
Okay.
the kids were welcome in the club room, and we'd have our sort of prize giving and entertainment. And at Glenora, they used to have this big room upstairs, and we'd go up there, and you'd have discos and things like that, and chase girls. And so yeah, it was real good fun, really good fun, good time hanging out. And then guys in the Glenora team, Eric and Arthur Carson, and Dennis Williams had a stint there. Joe Carron when he came across from Rugby Union. And then we had some real just stalwarts in the game that eventually I got to play with, Brian Conning and Dennis Lovell and Bindi Hokomo and the Williams brothers. So, yeah, just local Glenora guys that had a good name in the Auckland scene. But, yeah, we'd certainly had some Glenora greats that had gone on to Kiwis, like, Dana Hara and Eric
Yeah.
Carson and Arthur Carson.
Amazing, amazing. Now, I've got a friend, Mike Harrison, I've met through doing this podcast, and he mentioned that the Glenora under 18 side, you won the Auckland under 18s title. You were in the side, but both yourself and Dean Lonergan went on to be Kiwis from that side. So, how tough was the competition back then, and how amazing was it to go on and represent the Kiwis with Big Dean?
Yeah, well, the competition was tough, and in the Auckland scene, and right through. I guess we regard Auckland, like kind of like it was harder to make the Auckland team sometimes, and so the standard of the club footy was always tough across the clubs, and we're lucky enough when we got into senior footy that the guys, we had some guys come up from other areas like Phil Bancroft came up, from
Yeah,
Canterbury
that's the
and was
one.
part of our Glenora team. Chappie Pine, who was an international and played just about for every club in Auckland
Yeah,
across New Zealand came up, and then we had Kelly Shelford and Mike Patton, Dean Lonergan. Kelly Shelford as I mentioned, but yeah, it was a really good Glenora team. We I played my first sort of premier game late when I was at high school. I was focused on a school trip that we had, a rugby union first 15 trip. The carrot
really.
was when you're in third form, year 9, the teacher said, if you stay at school for 5 years, we're going on a world rugby trip to England, Japan, Canada, and across to America to end up with.
Yeah.
And so I thought, hell yeah, I'm into that. But how do I stay at school for that long? And but the last 2 years of my high school, I really didn't play that much rugby league because I
Okay.
was working part-time. Well, actually, I went to school part-time, was working full-time, trying to save extra money to go on this other trip. My younger brother was on the trip as well.
Okay.
So yeah, my focus was on that, not on club league. And so yeah, it wasn't until after the trip, the school trip, I didn't come home. I stayed in the States for a couple of years with some family. And
Really?
while I was over there, it was before emails and all of that kind of stuff. My cousin
Yeah.
George, who was doing great things back here in the Auckland scene with Margaret East, the likes of Dean Lonergan, you
Yeah.
know, we heard all these guys were making junior Kiwis, and they were on a scholarship to go play with sides in Australia.
Okay.
And so I decided to come home and have a crack, and that was in 1986. Glenora was Sharman then.
Okay.
So yeah, and I sort of didn't really dawn on me till 1987. Where I realised actually I need to knuckle down because the Auckland team '87 team went on a tour to England,
Yes.
and I wasn't even in contention because nobody knew me. I was a nobody. But I missed. I wasn't playing hooker, and even I had a year in senior football, but I wasn't even in contention. Where I kind of thought I had a chance, but so it was after missing out on that I realised, yeah, hey, look, let's knuckle down
Yeah.
and see where footy can go.
Okay. So is that when you really knuckled down with Glenora Prims, like in the top side?
Yeah,
Yeah. What was that
87,
like?
88, 89.
Yep.
And a couple of mates of mine, because I realised too that you needed to train. Always like training hard. Here's a truism, and you learn this when you start, meeting other representative players and your teammates. Is that all of the guys train really hard outside of coming into a test team or coming into a trial or coming into pre-season, and what separates probably your professional players from your club players. And you can have
Yeah.
really good club players that are super fit and show up for pre-season fit, but they might be lacking a bit of skill or just be unlucky, and sometimes it's got to do with timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew I had to get fit and train really hard, and I had a good mate of mine, Gary Musicowoski. He's ran his own concrete business, still does. So yeah,
Okay.
he let me work with him and mess up his concrete work. And another guy, Grant Pocklington, good mate, got me a job at Placemakers. And I think for 87, 88, 89, I had these jobs, but I was really just focused on training, trying to make the Kiwis.
Yeah, man, that's the one. That's the one. But before you made the Kiwis, you actually played in the first Tongan side at the Pacific Cup 1986. So how massive was it to be a part of the origins of Tongan Rugby League, like internationally?
Yeah, that was something special, and I hold dearly and fondly, and so grateful to my father and my late Uncle George and my cousins and my aunties to represent our heritage at Tongan side of
Yeah,
Alfano. And there was the families across Auckland who migrated out from the islands, Samoan, Niue, Tokelau, um, and for Māori as well. That team in '86, the Māori team was a stacked team.
yeah,
But that first ever Pacific Cup to be held in the Cook Islands, yeah, it was brutal. And the guys talk about how fierce. You had club mates in Auckland who some known each other since kids football, coming
yeah,
on to Premier football, but refusing to even look at each other. Cook, when our hotels are really close to each other,
yeah.
and you know, just the intensity even before kickoff was fierce. It was something else and brutal. So there, and that laid the foundation as far as Mate Matonga is concerned. You know,
Yeah,
um, and fast forward to 2017 and what Jason Taumalolo
yeah.
and Christian Wolf and the guys have done, it was just incredible. I'd never thought it could get as big as that crowd in Hamilton when Tonga played the Kiwis,
I was at
and
the
then to
game.
come back the
Oh
next
my
week
God.
and it's bigger again at Mount Smart against the
Yeah.
English. Yeah, and then to get victories against Australia was just something else.
You could never have dreamed of that 10 years ago. It just wouldn't have happened. Like just they weren't even close. And then wow, what Jason Tamalolo and like Andrew Fafita kind of went with him and like wow, like I went to that World Cup match at Hamilton. Oh my God, I never saw that coming. Like, what a
Yeah,
crowd. It was unbelievable to be on the losing side because it was an amazing atmosphere. It's incredible.
yeah, it is. And we're grateful for those that went before us, and there are some players who have passed on, and coaching staff and families that really, the Poaching family, who are
Yep.
heavily involved in Marist, and the Briggs family. There's so many, and to get that off the ground and then continue that as a Pacific series every 2 years. And my cousins, Warren, George, and Esau, and my younger brother Bart, all got to wear a Tongan jersey over those
Yeah.
tournaments and win some, lose some, and be involved at World Cups.
Yeah, man. I think Sam Stewart was captain of the Māori side, and Asini Faimalo was in the Samoan side. So you got to play those fellas, and I've had them both on, and it's just so cool to actually see the beginnings of what we have now, way back in 1986. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's really, really special, and now and then, bump into the guys who we played in those tournaments, and there's a few of them that still run around in Masters as silly buggers. So
Yeah,
not for me.
fair enough. Oh, mate, it's great. So, moving on to '87, you were selected for Auckland, and you played the British Lions, and you guys got the win, 30-14. Like, what a massive challenge going up against the Brits. How did you enjoy that? You're taking on Kevin Ward and Hugh Waddell, Andy Curry, all at the peak of their powers. Like, how incredible was that experience?
Yeah, that's something else, because at Carlo Park, and isn't it good when you got your own local referee doing the match as well? So it's
It's helpful.
yeah, it's but yeah, I think I can't remember, but I think we had a couple of invitational players in the side as well,
Okay.
and but yeah, that thing about the talent in the Auckland scene was so good then, and the style of footy then, was the ball. You didn't play the modern game as you on attack, you play over the advantage line. Back then, you'd pass the ball, and it would be three passes back, and before you'd even cross the advantage line. Everything
Yeah.
was deep, but the game also had a lot of movement of the ball, side to side,
Yeah.
and and keeping the ball alive. It wasn't this mindset of get to the end of your six and kick the ball. So
Yeah.
and in some aspects, I think that ability to attack and let the ball sing, play what's in front of you,
Yeah.
is one of the great qualities that when you see a modern day player, and they call it now sort of eyes up footy, is I think it's that sort of attribute which I think of in the past, and when you see players just have a great awareness today.
Yeah. Well, I'm a tragic for the '80s and '90s because I believe that was just when rugby league was kind of at that sweet spot of throwing it around, but it was becoming professional and things were a little bit more structured, but not too structured. Like you saw, like that early '90s Broncos side and the Raiders teams of the Woodfield Cup, like they were unbelievable. That was when rugby league sort of was becoming more professional, but the style was epic.
Yeah, it was. It was really, and crikey, Broncos and class, speed always, you can't coach speed, the saying goes. And if you're blessed with
Yeah,
a side with speed, well, hey, why not get the ball out there? And, early on talking about the Ponsonby team my dad played in, when you got a great like Roger Bailey, who, was famous for, the long pass, but he was
yeah,
also a terrific running player, with a wicked step. And
yeah,
so, you know, that sort of just sort of game now awareness to sort of look at tired players, kick for as an attacking weapon, not just to let the ball go out.
yep,
And they had little subtle plays which sort of carried through to my time in the '80s and '90s, where there was a lot of sort of showing of the ball and sort of deception around the ruck and especially through the halfbacks.
Okay, so moving on to 1989, you signed with the Warrington Wolves in the UK. So how did this come about, and just how massive was it to like uproot your whole life from Auckland, move up to the other side of the world where it's freezing cold, you're away from home, all the families back there. Like, what was that experience like for you?
I was exciting, and it was really grateful to get a contract over there. I was hoping to pick up one, but it happened by chance through Mark Elia
Okay,
just letting me know that a couple of clubs were looking for players, and so I was able to have a conversation in the hotel with Brian Johnson, who was the Warrington coach, and he was looking for a couple of other players, but yeah, I think I begged him enough, and I got offered a deal. But kind of what I was talking about before about rugby league allowing you to see different things, travel places, meet new people, get you out of your comfort zone. For me, going overseas was not an issue. It was sort of, it was and opening up opportunities. So yeah, I was excited, couldn't wait for it. And that 89 year sort of, yeah, as you mentioned, with Auckland and games against Great Britain and Australia, and just that rivalry to try and hold down and win the test spot, and then get on the tour, and then after the tour get a contract. My wife is born in England and moved to New Zealand with her family when she was 3 years old. So for us to go back, as we weren't married then, but it was an easy move, and convinced for us to go back together. And it was really good.
Yeah, man. So also in your first season with Warrington, you went all the way to Wembley in the Challenge Cup final. Like, no mucking around, straight to the final. Like, did you realise at the time just how hard it is to make a Wembley, Challenge Cup final? Because some players never even get there. You're there on season one.
Yeah, hey, I was always aware if you were lucky enough to be in the grand final, that's a big deal. So enjoy it, and that's through my dad and the Ponsonby team, and just for us as kids footy coming up. So I'd been used to, going to finals and all of that, but never took them for granted. And with Warrington and I knew that you played for different cups throughout the year, and Challenge Cups the Challenge Cup is the big one. If you want to, winning a premiership is something else. That's the best thing ever. To win something after a week-to-week slog through a long season. But when that Challenge Cup came around and we were just going through each knockout, and to see it on the English guys' faces, especially that's when I knew really, because I'd watched the Challenge Cup from here when the likes of Fred O'Coy, Dana Hara, James Lilloy had been to Challenge Cups, and other players, be it Australian or Kiwi. So
back in the 80s, early 80s,
early 80s, 85,
82 as well with Hull.
That's right, 82.
Yeah.
So you'd stay up at night and watch those, and and Ray French was commentating those, the great English commentator, and I was lucky enough got to meet him a number of times, and he commentated a number of games we played for and at test matches, and so it was a real buzz, and to come up against Wigan, stacked Wigan team and something else. But, and my father was played for New Zealand. He was Kiwi number 492, and so he knew a lot about Wembley. And when he was on tour in the UK and France, he actually the Kiwi stayed in Warrington. So this thing about Warrington, I'd got to learn the history. They're a club they're 148 years young. What a club. And a proud history. They hadn't been to Wembley since the early 70s. Mike Gregory, who was our captain at the time, Paul Cullen, who's known as Mr. Warrington, just a fantastic guy, Paul. The late Des Drummond. We had so many sort of good local Warrington boys and guys across the club had recruited that had been let go or not taken up by other clubs. So it meant a lot to the local guys.
Yeah, man. You said the side was stacked for Wigan. I wrote a few names down just for everyone to know who you were up against. So we had a few Kiwis. You had Dean Bell, Adrian Shelford, Kevin Edo, and then you had English guys like Andy Platt, Dennis Betts, Bobby Goulding, and Ellery Hanley. It's like top shelf, man.
Yeah. Funny thing was, because, over there for the first time and prior to Wembley, the guys would every Monday or Tuesday we'd try to get together and just keep in touch, and we'd play a bit of cards. So, I'm there one time where I think we're at Gary Moose's house and talking to Kevin Edo and them and saying, hey, what's it like playing at Wembley? And so he's telling me, sometimes people get surprised just how fast the ground is, and they can cut the grass to what each club specifies, and so
really? Right.
So I get an insight into like Kevin. Yeah, Kevin knows Wembley really well because he's bloody been there that often. And then when we got to play them, I was thinking, gosh, these guys are so used to it, like, and we only got the one walkthrough, and
Yeah.
not a training on the ground, but
No,
yeah, it was just under 80,000, I think, for that game. So it was
amazing.
something against. We didn't put on our best shot, but Mike Gregory, the late Mike Gregory, he hardly played that year. It was interrupted by injury, and how
Yeah.
he got himself fit in the game that he played on that day was something special to remember.
Yeah. What's that atmosphere like, man? Like you run out and like 80,000 people going mental. Like that must be something else.
Yeah, it is, and it's that thing you don't want to you know, have your head sitting up in the seats because you'll end up playing like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, but you do, it depends. I guess everybody's different, but you take it in, you have a look around, and then you get back on to
Yeah.
where the eyes
Game
and
on.
ears should be. But
Yeah, man.
some games, even though they might not be as big as that crowd there, some games are really noisy where if you don't really concentrate, you can't hear, your
Really?
players, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's especially those English grounds where they're really sort of intimate and right
Yes.
upon you. You know,
Yeah.
you can have 3,000 fans from Hull sound like 90,000 all baying for your blood.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? Bloody rowdy.
Well, Wilderspool had a bit of a name for itself as a crowd, as a ground. Other clubs didn't really enjoy coming to when you had a front row. Before I joined, how Kevin Tamati, Les Boyd, and
Oh,
Bob
mate.
Jackson in the front row. Yeah,
My God.
they were some
Yeah.
intimidating forward packs. Steve Roach had spent time in Warrington as well. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Amazing. Amazing. So, 1989, you had your test debut against Australia, second test of the three test series here in New Zealand. You started at hooker against Kieran Walters in Rotorua. How special was it, man, pulling on that first Kiwi jersey, representing New Zealand on home soil?
yeah, it was. Yeah, I said recently because of my mother's side, Maori, and a lot of families through Takaroa, Mangakino, Rotorua.
Okay.
So that was something special. And I've been not too far from Auckland for mates from Glenora and schoolmates to get down. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was an awesome day in July, and that Aussie team, yeah, crikey,
Stacked.
it's the old saying when you're lucky enough to finally get on the field, you're still kind of going, the old joke, do you ask for an autograph? And
Yeah.
Wally Lewis came up to me after the game, and he said had a good game, and he knew my name, and I was just kind of dribbling after that, um, and kind of it's that mix of kind of like when you see Brendan Tudor want to take Paul Vorton's face off, then you go, oh man, this is this is
It's
this
the
is the
best game.
game.
Mate.
There's a photo of Toots with his fist closed coming down on a fair tackle like that, and he's incredible.
Uh,
We had gave it a good go in that second test,
you did.
and had enough ball, but I think it was only the one try the Australians scored.
Yeah,
So
it was 8
they're
0 was the
8.
final score. So, very commendable effort on your first game out, and for the whole Kiwi side as a whole. Pretty tough at us beating that Australian side. They had everyone, they had all the greats. So, all half of them are bloody immortals now.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the old thing when they when I'm not whinging, but they come off the back of an Origin series where they're battled hardened, they're
Yes.
fit, they've got combinations, through selection, and we're coming into it, kind of cold, lukewarm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that kind of an unfair advantage for Australia every year that they have Origin. And then the Kiwis get, like, even now, nothing during the year. And then expect to have to match the might of Australia. Basically had a kangaroo trial through State of Origin. It's crazy.
And when I got into that first test in '89 and the second test, we the Kiwis had a bit of success in '87. I think it was '87, and
Yeah, they
beating
got a
Australia,
win. Yep,
got a
Lang
win, and
Park. Yep.
yeah. And then the other part is, we always were kind of doing a little bit tough and catching up. I think Wiz in that 89 year, he had that long suspension, so,
Yes. Yes.
that's Gareth Freeman, our star halfback, coming into without, playing the game for so long.
Yeah.
And a couple of other players, it's always that thing about, getting released from your club or
Yeah.
coming off some sort of judicial incident.
Yes. I mean, it's crazy back in those days why the New Zealand Rugby League wouldn't release our best players like the Kiwis. Like, it's crazy. Or the clubs would be a pain. Like, I think the Sorensens went through that back in the 80s when Cronulla wouldn't release them to play and they had to like fight for that. It was crazy. And they finally were able to play for the Kiwis. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the clubs are paying your wages, and then from their perspective, they're looking after their interests. But yeah, when it's on the other foot in terms of an Australian player, they don't apply the same decision
Yeah,
for an Australian player to be released to play for country or state.
exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. So moving on, you actually went on the tour of England, France, the Kiwis in '89 as well, and you got your first Test win at Old Trafford against Great Britain, 24-18. Mate, what's that experience like taking on the mighty Poms at Old Trafford?
To play on those grounds like Old Trafford and Allen Road, up in
Yeah,
Leeds, because I also had this sort of love of English football. Back in our school day, we had, in our neighbourhood, the football teams were strong, and I went to Celston Boys, and we had some players who made the All Whites in their last year of high school. Darren McLennan, Carl Jorgensen, Roger Gray, and a couple of others. But yeah, so to go to English ground and then just go wow, and then this is something else. Kurt Sorensen, I'll never forget Kurt through that '89 tour. Kurt's one of the guys I looked up to, him and his brother, and with Hugh, being our captain, was another one. But Kurt through that tour was phenomenal. He, I don't know how old he was then, but his legs were giant. And when you're coming up against the Poms, and because he had been there with Widnes, and
yeah,
everybody feared Kurt, and whether it was Kevin Bedmore coming up or rest of their forward pack, Kurt would just give it to him, and he was fit. He was fit and fast, which is no surprise. He was always an athlete.
yeah, man.
And the strange one was that one too. Is just remember that actually when we played the midweek games, they were released to go back and play for their midweek games, so they didn't
Oh,
stay with
really?
us the whole tour. So we played against Widnes, and Kurt lines up for Widnes. We play against Wigan, Dean Bell lines up for Wigan. We play against St Helens, Shane Cooper's packing down in St Helens. It's
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's so cool.
yeah. So yeah, Kurt, whilst he wasn't with us in camp the whole time, he was every opportunity we could get him into camp. Because he was so good. He was so good for the team. His leadership and his toughness. Sam Stewart, I know he's been on your show. Sam blew me away. Because I didn't really know Sam and some of the guys because I hadn't played that senior football and I'd come in late, so I hadn't played against them a lot and didn't really get to know them. But Sam was super fit, super strong. Only a little bit taller than me. But yeah, just a really great sense of timing. Really good timing. From a hooker perspective, certain guys like to have the ball early, and so when Kurt and Sam Stewart just say, "Give me the ball early," just give them the ball early. Don't
Just do it.
muck around trying to be clever. And Toddy as well. Brent Todd had amazing timing, and really sort of reliant on his sort of carries and defensively. James Goulding was another one I remember in that tour. Unlucky James broke his hand, and my cousin George was able to come into the test side because of James's injury. But losing James put a bit of dent in, and our sort of strength of our pack.
Okay, interesting. So, also moving on, 1991 season with Warrington, you went on to play the Regal Trophy final at Headingley, and this time you got the chocolates, you got the win, a gritty 12-2 victory. Like, what's the memories of winning like a major trophy in the UK?
Yeah, really good. The English really know how to celebrate, really. And
Hell yeah.
because part of the celebration is with the fans, and that's a learning for me when when you get to see they have their own club post games, and when you go back into the clubhouse, it's important you engage and you connect with the members, and you get that sense, then hey, yeah, they're paying your wages,
Absolutely.
and some of the players like Talwada and Brendan Tudor, the crowds would have these chants after them that they'd make up, like Aseni probably had a chant after him.
Yep.
So they're special, the fans, and Warrington fans were special. So the Regal Trophy, they winning it is really, really, really awesome, and because the fans get involved in it, and it's almost like let's take this trophy around the town to every pub, and there's a few pubs, as you know.
Yeah,
Warrington had won a Lancashire Cup just before I arrived, where I think they beat Wigan, and so that was our might have been our first trophy apart from the Wembley appearance that we lifted. And we worked really hard for that, that performance with our team. And Brian Johnson, our coach, was a fullback and played for Warrington. He, he's one of these guys. He was a school teacher and used to think sort of deeply about the game. But he would construct a number of plays around half, dummy half, and halfbacks. So the good thing for me is that meant you got a lot of sort of plays around that were built around our forward pack and our loose forwards. So Gary Sanderson for Warrington, he could run these lines and these holes beautifully, and it was a really good performance by a lot of the guys.
Oh, mate, it must have been so cool to get that win in such a big game. A lot of guys I've spoken to, they're always at the semi-final or they lose the final of one of the big games, but it must feel so good, especially with Warrington too, because it's usually a St. Helens or a Wigan or back then Widnes,
Yeah, that's right. Wigan, had a mortgage on all the trophies, and St. Helens were, we're very Widnes, I mean, crikey, yeah. Even though they had the good, great Kiwis there with Kurt and Aseni and Joe Grimmer and Mossy and just so many players. But then you've got Jonathan Davies and
no, it's not fair, Martin Fire.
It's just amazing how the English clubs really recruit really well, and by and large the Kiwis and Australians, when they go there, they knew they weren't going for a holiday, because your fans let you know. So they certainly we had a guy at Warrington who came over. Chris O'Sutherland was a great Canberra 5'8".
I remember him.
Tough as anything, Chris, and he was a big part of the Regal Trophy. Chris, halfback shorter than me, he'd punch anybody. He was so tough. Chris and I had a dust up in one game. We were arguing each other like cats and dogs, and the English guys were going, "Hey, leave each other alone and take it out on the opposition." And but he's a great guy, super competitive, and and had a large part. And at Warrington too, I was at there when we brought in a lot of the Welsh rugby union guys, and Kevin Ellis, Alan Bateman, Roland Phillips. They were something special as well. Just I'd seen plenty of rugby guys convert to league and pick it up, and those Welsh guys were did that just as gracefully and easily, because they're just skillful and talented and hardworking.
Yeah, man. And Mossy was another one of them, rugby to league, and he actually said he found it quite hard. He thought it was going to be easy but he found out it was a lot different to what he thought.
Yeah, in one part I found that sometimes the rugby guys talk about and they get surprised. They go, "Oh, geez, the league guys are a lot more laid back and casual, and I don't know if they're really, that professional." But then they realise, oh no, they are, because they the league boys train, you got a different sort of strength and fitness base, a lot quicker, a lot more explosive, a lot more dynamic, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but there is a difference, and I think it shows through when the game itself is more free flowing league, the less rules, less structure, and that shows up, kind of transfers back to personality wise, where the league guys can just switch on and switch off a bit more comfortably than the rugby union guys. I find the rugby union guys just a little bit more stuck in protocol and hierarchy and rules. And
Yeah.
Frano Bodico, I think it was Frano. Frano's super competitive. He's got this really competitive edge. But he's also, when he came across the league, his personality and his humor, he's very dry, but he was able to make
Right.
it really comfortable.
Okay.
But he proved himself through his competitiveness. Daryl Halligan's another one, and Gavin
Oh,
Hill, they're just able to
legends.
sort of switch on, switch off, and they enjoy life outside of the footy field.
Yeah. Oh, mate, so good. Some good names there you're mentioning. So also, you went on the tour into Papua New Guinea in both 1990 and 94. So lucky enough to go both times. The stories of Papua New Guinea are always extremely entertaining for me. So how exciting were those tours for you? Like, what did you see? Was there anything crazy that happened both on and off the field?
I think all the strange stuff and the first time stuff you're probably already aware of and have been mentioned. I don't think it's something. It's a lot to take in when you're going from sort of down in Port Moresby and then travel up to the Highlands up into Goroka and
Yep.
or you travel back down and through Lade. It's just such a big, vast, rich country. I remember in 1990 when we first went there, they had the Bougainville, with the mining of the copper mines. They had the
Yeah.
it was sort of, what is it, the strike or the people were rallying against, sort of that all the mining.
Yeah.
And two of my oldest brothers and my uncle were working in mines and doing work up through and Jara, Papua New Guinea at the time too. So, but we were warned because of all that sort of unrest. Be careful, the locals don't take too kind to foreigners.
Okay.
But yeah, we had every chance we had the Kiwi boys. We're saying kia ora, and and yeah, the locals really looked after us. Were kind and gracious
Yeah.
to us, and as everyone says, they just really love their rugby league.
Yeah.
We went out to do a few things like, I think we went to one of the wildlife parks, and then we went to a crocodile farm once, and seeing Tawada and some of the other boys just dipping their hands into the guy says there's no crocs in there, so they dip their toes and hands, and next minute these big crocs start sort of splashing above the waterline.
You're kidding. Oh, mate, that's insane. What about playing them on the field? Like, how tough were the Cougars? Because you beat them comfortably, but mate, you probably got beaten up in the process.
Yeah, the '94 one was really tough. I think if you're lucky enough and it doesn't rain, because the soil dissipates really, and you get these rocks and stones and underneath the playing surface, so it looks really nice and pretty. And then sort of with only a small bit of rain, it can lift up, and yeah, it's hard, it's fast. The players are very physical, very
Yeah,
physical. They love to compete. They compete every inch across the field. When it goes their way and the passes stick, it's unbelievable. The
yeah,
talent and the skill. The prop forward runs quicker than the wingers. It's
yeah.
I think in the '94 series, the opposing hooker was also the captain of their team and came up with an injury. But yeah, both times on both series, the wins are never easy.
No,
You've really got to grind them out, and yeah, it's. I think we had a referee on both. New Zealand referee travelled with us on both occasions to
okay.
share in the refereeing duties. So yeah, maybe that was a good thing.
I absolutely think so. And so was it like because I saw the documentary, I got some footage of it, which I put up on the Facebook group of the whole tour in '94 was like documented as a documentary. Like, and I saw you went into schools and you're doing huckers in front of the children and mixing with the communities. Like, just how amazing was that?
It is. It's really good. I mean, and that's the beauty part of being able to tour, and because you've got to get your training done, but part of building a successful winning team is being happy off the field,
Yeah,
and getting to know each other and engaging with wherever you are. So yeah, I think it was in '94 that was a Oceania women's soccer. cup on, and the New Zealand women's team were staying at these army barracks, which were, really sort of remote. And the Australian women's team were staying at our hotel. This is in Port Moresby, which was really sort of comfortable and flash. And we just felt so sorry for the women's football team. We said, "Come over and have dinner at have a meal at our hotel." And, But yeah, we did a number of school visits and sport. We had a couple of fishing trips and down to the local yacht club, and
Nice.
disgraceful. I think. We went to golf and probably had the worst golfing attire. We shouldn't have been allowed on a golf course. And the caddies, they provided us caddy, and the boys are spraying the golf balls left, right, and centre, and making the caddies go run for it and bring it back. It's terrible.
Oh, good times. Oh, good stuff, man. So, going back to 1991, you played in that famous win against the Kangaroos with a very young Kiwi side, and it's when Dean Lonergan went down in that match and famously got back up to play. Unbelievable. What was it like to finally get a win over the Aussie? One of the big wins.
Yeah, that was that was so good. We took our chances in that game, and the Australians came back by memory, and then we went ahead again. But taking your chances means, like, when Clayton Friend or Gary Freeman put a kick through and Tawada, hustles his way to scoop it up and score. When Jared McCracken or Richie Blackmore made a break down the side, they did that a couple of times in other games, and it didn't quite come off. Or I'd seen them do those kind of runs in training, where they just link up and turn up on your outside shoulder, and Richie runs infield and throws the ball back out, and incredible. And we had guys sort of outplay their opposites. That thing, if you do your own job and outplay your opposite, then you're taking care of business. And then collectively, I think like Dean Lonergan, and I've only seen that game a couple of times and watched it back. And the first time I watched it back, Dean was a very silky ball player. He actually liked to pass a lot. There was kind of a myth that he'd lift his knees and want to run at you all day and have no sidestep. He actually had a really good subtle pass, and Dean in that game threw a number of really good offloads. So our forwards were sort of going 1, 2, 3 short ball. Peter Brown, the same. And I think that's how we beat them, by moving the ball and not trying to bash and run over them, and taking every moment and every opportunity and turning it into points.
Yeah. Now, I think that's kind of a common theme with the wins New Zealand's had over Australia, when they've moved the ball around a bit, especially say in the 2008 World Cup final. We finally got a World Cup, and just throwing the ball around, just running rings around them, put the pressure on them for once, because that's why they choked. It was great.
Yeah, and then you just need that talent and size, getting a bit of size like Richie Blackmore, Jared McCracken, and then the speed of Davey Watson, and Frano was super good that day. Frano Bodika. Again, he hadn't played a lot of league then, but
throwing in,
throwing in, and so everyone did their bit, and it was just so disappointing, how we turned up and the result in the next two games. But
they were flash.
We did go out and celebrate, but you consciously know you've got to turn up and prepare. So
yes, I'm sure the Australians were on high alert after that loss. I'm sure they were.
Oh, and it's like any side when you get when you lose and you want to come back, and so that was I think Wally Lewis's last test, and there were other things going on within the Australian team and selections as well. So but we certainly love those next two test matches that followed after that. Would love to have another turn back the time on that one.
Okay. So moving forward a little bit, 93, you were called into the Auckland side for the big provincial grand final against a very strong Canterbury side down here in Addington Showgrounds, that big grand final. So this is the first time I've got to speak to a player from the Auckland side of that match. What was it like getting called back? Did you want to play in that big game, and how did that all come about? And talk about the match. Just how tough was it that day out?
Who was that against? I can't remember that other team. Oh, sorry, mate. No, just kidding you, Cantabs. I love it how the boys keep reminding us, and
it's all we got, mate. It's all we got.
I can actually remember when they scored the first try, and we were down behind the goal line, and you always go when a try goes, you go, who missed that? Where were you supposed to be? And you kind of giving it to each other, but you're just going, holy heck, did you see that? Did you just see Logan? Did you just see what he did? And it's just like in that first half, everything they did, they were running through a hole, and yeah, it was their running game, which was just kept beating us to a trick, and sort of if they weren't running straight through a hole, they were bouncing across the field, and we I think that first half just went so quick, and of course you turned it on. It might have been a fine day, sort of with the sun out, but it was freezing cold and windy.
Just a normal day here, mate.
I'm trying to make excuses, but it was. That was a horrible game for us, and we were hugely disappointed. And because we knew a lot of the Canterbury boys well and guys well. They were celebrating every time they scored a try. They would, I think Logan and Brent Stewart, we're chipping away like.
Doesn't surprise me at all. So, because there's a lot of talk about that game in terms of having a lot of superstars called back for that Auckland side, like Tawera, yourself, Craig Innes, Te Ropati, all called back from the UK. And I think Canterbury only called over Brendan Tudor. So, it's a real big deal down here, this game.
Yeah. It's so Malcolm keeps reminding me. But it's there's a rich history of West Coast Rugby League and Canterbury Rugby League, and strengthening each other, and of course West Coast just in its own right, sort of its footprint on guys coming up through to the Kiwis, and we're seeing that now with young Griffin Neem and but and so with the likes of Brendan Pongia and Brent Stewart Acosti, and one part of me I can cope with losing that game because I respect the history and the connection of of what it took for those guys, and also the club scene in Canterbury, and Hornby at Horswell. I know that history and that that competitiveness, awesome. And whilst I don't have a lot of family down there, it's a strong part of our game. And
yes.
We have a thing up here, when Auckland's strong, the game's strong. Well, I don't 100% believe that. When all of our regions are strong, our game is strong. And
absolutely,
so,
man. Yeah, they had a Hornby Horswell final last week for the Premiership, and Hornby, unbelievable, 20-0 up after about 25 minutes, and then it was all Horswell the second half in 2018 it got back to, and Hornby hung on for the win. Crazy match, crazy.
And that's Corey Laurie getting himself another meat pie and trophy.
Yeah, another trophy. Apparently, he's retiring. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm going to get him over next week to have a chat about it on the podcast, so it'll be good. Yeah.
All right. He's a man of few words.
No, he's all good. Right. So, 94, you finished up with Warrington. You returned back home to captain the North Harbour Sea Eagles in the inaugural Lion Red Cup season. Was that a tough decision to come home and play more of a semi-professional comp after being in the UK for 4 years or so?
I did want to actually stay, but I'd heard this Lion Red Cup was going to start, and of course, I'd sort of earmarked myself. I'd been offered the Warriors contract in '95, so with that came a job with Dominion Breweries. So so I had this job if I wanted to take it back here in '94. and it was good. It was a good job, and and so yeah, all that weighed up, and semi pro comp, the Lion Red Cup first time.
Yeah.
At Warrington, we had about 13 players going through a contracts negotiation, and a lot of the players offered less than what they were on, and there was a big signing of Jonathan Davies coming across
Oh,
from Widnes to Warrington.
wow.
So I kind of wish I would have gone into negotiations, but when I informed the club, and appreciate the club had paid a decent transfer fee for me to have me there.
Yeah.
The club had done nothing but support me and my family when I was there. So yeah, if I had it over again, I wish I would have sort of at least negotiated.
Okay.
Um, but coming back home, not just for the job, but to really prepare for the '95 season, I thought, hey, look, it's probably not a bad thing to come back and even though it's not professional football, I thought it was about just having the right mindset and attitude as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Graham Norton, I thought I'd come back and play for the Waitakere Raiders, but when I got back here, that roster was already full.
Oh, true.
Yeah, Ron O'Regan, the great Ron O'Regan, another
Yes.
mighty player, mighty coach in Kiwi, was coaching the Waitakere side, and so yeah, I just luckily enough, Graham Norton just had a bit of room there with the Harbour team.
Well, it turned out pretty well. You guys went on and won the bloody competition. In your first season as captain. No problems there. But what did you like about the competition? Because it was actually, I think, quite stacked with a lot of New Zealand talent. Like it had like a young Stacey Jones and Joe Vagano running around, and you could see how good Stacey was going to be. Seriously.
Oh, absolutely. And I hadn't really seen a lot of the junior Kiwis, but of course the junior Kiwi team in 1993 went on the UK tour. So, Stacey and those guys, and Joe Vagana and Henry Paul, who Henry then came into the Kiwi side for a test
Yes.
match in 93 with us. But yeah, they were the young stars. And so, yeah, got to see that in 94 when all those guys were coming through. So, yeah, it was what's great about a national comp when it is, not just when it's funded appropriately, but when also, you get the things right around logistics and getting into games, getting away from the venue. You're not playing these silly game times and travel times where it's still not fully professional, but you're giving some assistance to the players to
Yeah.
train. And so, yeah, a lot of the franchises, they had proper medical staff, access to gymnasiums. The sponsors were also, it was a good opportunity for sponsors to get behind the teams and in the lead up to sort of, the 95 with the Warriors. So I think every
Yeah.
franchise had at least, 3 or 4 sponsors. So, we started to see that first thing in New Zealand where, jersey sponsors, front and back sleeves. I
Yes.
think one of the team had sponsors on the back of the shorts. So it was,
Oh, wicked.
yeah, yeah. So and the fields were set up well, and commentary, and I
Yes.
think it was TV3. So there was broadcasting of the games.
Oh, it's unbelievable to think we had that, and now we kind of have nothing like that at all now. Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be
well,
great to see it back.
it makes you feel as a player that you're not just special, but it just you if you're a player's mindset, you're going into battle and it's kind of gladiatorial, and and so you're willing to spill blood.
Yeah,
What you want is an environment where the crowd can engage and have their part in it, and because it makes you. It is true. You can ride on the back of a home crowd, and you can dig deep. And
yeah.
when you're playing away, and there's spectators out there booing for you, you can dig deep, or you can hide like me. But yeah, it's special and it was neat, and the crowd numbers were good, and
Yeah,
you know, and yeah, and now we came, I think, from fifth spot in that '94 victory,
yeah.
and I think we came up and we beat Mangere, no, Counties Manukau.
Yeah, Hytro's team in the final.
in the final. Yeah, with my cousin
Yep.
Esso playing in that team. Yeah,
Oh, mate, I think they were the dominant side all year, and then you pipped them in the final.
they were the dominant side, and
Yeah,
in fact, yeah, all the sides were playing really good, and we weren't shaky, but we had a talented side too with Kenny McIntosh and the Stewart brothers, and
yeah,
Jason Palmata, who with Canterbury boy, West Coaster boy, who'd come up and played with Harbour.
yeah.
But yeah, Graham Norton was so good, and yeah, just Quinton Dane, so many talented players that yeah that yeah we got a sense of when we got to finals, it's somehow we just managed to find another gear, and Fasuafa, we Tony Tatupu.
Oh,
Yeah,
mate, some good names there, man.
yeah. You just made me remember because just going quickly back to '93
Yeah.
with all the Canterbury success, because Canterbury were really strong. That Kiwi side in '93 was the first time. It was the first professional New Zealand Kiwi side where everyone were full time pros,
Okay. All
and
right.
so we had a large number from Canterbury in the Kiwi side.
Yeah.
Only a few Aucklanders. But the key, one of the key things was it was New Zealand's first full time professional side.
Amazing. Amazing. So moving on, the Warriors came into fruition in 1995. You're part of that inaugural side. So how did the whole signing for the Warriors come about? Like, how were you approached, or did you approach them? How did that whole process happen? And what was that excitement and the buzz like? Being a player in that first squad, leading up to that first season.
Yeah, it was. It's been documented. Just how good Ian Robson, was at marketing. The Warriors, and with hardly any players signed. We actually with no players signed,
Oh wow!
and was still securing sponsors, gaining media interest, gaining media time, and building a story. And yeah, so it as players, was John Money had gone out to watch, the Kiwi games, been out to
Yep.
Lion Red Cup games. So yeah, he was in the country, and then of course, and being in with Wigan, he knew a lot about the Kiwi guys, and so yeah, a lot of guys were asked, and some declined, some weren't asked, and yeah, I was lucky enough to be asked, and
Okay.
for me, I always wanted to play professional back here, and
Yep.
understanding that this is the first ever Warriors professional team. So yeah, it was as soon as the contract came available, no hesitation.
Hesitation. Get amongst it. I asked Brendan Tudor if there was any interest to sign with the Warriors, and he had a 3-year deal offered, and he just didn't sign it at the end. He's like, nah, once Stat Featherston, that was it. So you could have had Brendan Tudor instead of having to play
Oh,
against him.
would have loved to play footy again with Brendan. He's crazy good player. But that's the thing that guys had to weigh up. Where were you at with your club in Australia? And that's there's take a Ruben Wiki. Was offered
Yeah.
a Warriors contract, but
Yes.
crikey, when he's playing alongside Mal Meninga, his childhood hero, and that stacks at
Crazy.
Canberra side, and I'm sure there were, I know there were a bunch of other players that in either Australia or the UK.
Yes.
So yeah, it was not a straightforward black and white decision for some, and it wasn't for some just about the amount on the contract. It was a bit of club loyalty, which still meant a lot back in those days.
Yes, it did. It did indeed. And you played in that first trial match against Canterbury. Any opportunity to say Canterbury down here. You played at the Addington Showgrounds, and the people of Christchurch really showed up. I think it was like 12,000 people there. And Canterbury put up a pretty decent fight against a pretty awesome Warriors side that day. I think it was something like 26-12. I think it was something like the score like that. But what was it like running out in that very first trial match? Mixing it up with combinations and learning your new teammates and having a decent crack against Canterbury.
Um, I'm pretty sure it's the same for all the guys in the Warriors. Even though we'd signed this contract, and you've got a secure contract or whatever. It was important trying to get in the team, the starting 17. And that was for
Yep.
everyone. It didn't. and guys got a sense, when you're training full time, you get to see, your competition train right beside you. How
Yep.
you going in your weights? How you going in your running? What's on the scales? Why are you talking to the coach, and why is someone talking to the coach and you're not? So there's
Okay.
for some it can play a bit of mind games. If you're on the in or on the out, and
Okay.
so yeah, it's highly competitive, and you've got to just keep your head down and knuckle. So you know, it's kind of almost like regardless who you're playing, is you've got to focus on yourself and doing your job and whatever it is you're tasked to do. So yeah, without sounding disrespectful to Canterbury, and it's kind of that thing too. There's no such thing as an easy game.
Yeah.
You just got to go out and it's hard to, because sometimes the coaching staff will say, they're not quite, you're not quite sure how much game time you've got. Are you doing the first half or quarters, and so, and for myself personally, it was the first time that I'd had injuries where I couldn't train the preseason well.
Okay.
So I had calf problems with just felt like constant cramp. I had a collapsed bicep and bone chips in my shoulder, which is a small shoulder injury, but I couldn't straighten my shoulder, and just had this
Okay.
shooting pain. And every time I'd lift weights, so I wasn't doing the gym work I needed to do, and I wasn't doing the field work I could do because of my calves. So yeah, for myself, I knew there was pressure on with Sid Eru playing so
Yeah.
well and such a talent. Oh, crikey, and
Absolutely.
Sid and a number of hookers, locally, Denwood Johnson, Mike Cully from down your way.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, yeah, in a long-winded way, going back to that in Canterbury, you want to win, you want to do the job, and you want to get out of there.
Absolutely. And that led to that very first match against the Broncos. Like, you made the starting lineup, you're running out on the run on side. It's the very first game. There's fireworks going off. You're running through that tunnel, that very first match. What is the feeling like? It's the anticipation, the atmosphere. Like, man, it must have been insane. So that was a big night.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of us didn't realise just how big it was until post game,
Yeah.
and we knew it was special, and we hadn't rehearsed that walk out in the tunnel at all. I
Okay.
can't remember. Like doing any rehearsal. And we were aware of the drummers, but we weren't aware of the Flames. I wasn't aware there was going to be a Flames and a full cultural group as big as it was, and the blackout with the lights, and so yeah, that was all. But I guess that rehearsal of walking out to Wembley, walking out to other grand finals, being in test matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn to deal with that, and
Yeah.
and the Broncos was something else. But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Very
was
good.
it was yeah, it was really special because it was everything as a kid you want to dream of playing. My days and my lenses through Carlisle Park, and
Yeah.
of course this isn't Carlisle Park. It's Mount Smart Stadium, but it's in essence it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
it's playing at home in front of your family and friends, and and all the people that have been, many of them are day one fans that are still
Yeah.
watching the Warriors today. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's special.
It's an iconic moment, isn't it? Like seeing Dean Bell come out with flames and just walking out. Oh, it's incredible. Because we're so lucky we live like you started in a generation where we had the technology to film stuff. Like there's so much history that's forgotten and not documented, but then we've got that very first moment of that first Warriors game where the team comes out. It's pretty special, eh?
Yeah, it is, and I can remember actually, because one of the things that have helped me is sort of you take that time to kind of do a little bit of reflection, and and I don't always do it through the eyes of trying to think about my dad and my brothers,
Yeah.
and my mum and what they've given up to for me to chase my footy dreams, and sort of as we started this conversation in backyard footy, so you kind of have those. I do remember having sort of thinking about that, and then trying to relate it back to how I wanted to play, and and when I started playing, it was the 5 meter rule, it wasn't the 10 meter rule. It wasn't
Yeah.
until 1993 that we got to a 10 meter rule. But when at senior footy, and then I got in the first Test match and all of that, is the attitude was then is I built my game around defensive, because I wasn't the quickest and all that. But I'd enjoy tackling and like to get lots of early tackles in. So the mindset was, get to marker and chase hard from first marker, chase hard. And back then it was, the attitude was fly off from first marker, fly early, second marker, stay and hold.
Yep.
95, I fly out from first marker, and then, Kerry Walters just runs straight past and goes up the other end, and Alfie Langer, they all step in. So 95, it was don't chase from first marker, markers split, and so this thing came in about markers splitting rather than one chase, one hold. Different other things around the 10-meter rule, like you're saying earlier about, we used to pass the ball back before you attacked, and now it was all like, it was all pass the ball, get over the advantage line as a half or a hooker, and bring your players onto the ball. So I was reflecting about that and the difference of a game, and but I used to enjoy getting out and trying to chalk up as many tackles as I could. But then you kind of remember, no, don't do that against great players because they make you look stupid.
Well, unfortunately, Alan Langer, you guys were leading the match kind of comfortably, and then Alan Langer, spoiled the party with 2 tries and bloody field goal, and oh mate, what a superstar player! But I think a very commendable effort for the Warriors' first outing.
Oh, and I think of Dean Bell always when I think about that first game, because I got to see Dean in '89 and play alongside him when I played my first test match and test series, and then I'd seen what he'd done with Wigan. It's super tough the games Dean played. Centre to loose forward to play with a busted body, and to see just how much it meant to him in that first game, not having been back in New Zealand for a long time, how he played that whole season. And then I got to work with Dean later on together at the Warriors, but Dean's a super special person, and and of course we've got a long relationship with the family, the Bell family, and but I think that first game and that season was a lot to do with Dean Bell.
Okay. A very special player. I have to get him on the podcast too. He's on my bucket list. Don't worry. So you only played 13 games out of the first 16, but then you kind of disappeared for the rest of the season. So what sort of happened there? And obviously your exit from the Warriors. What was that part of the journey?
Yeah, basically got cut and got dropped. So
really?
but basically Sid Eru was playing better than me, and Sid's dynamic, and it was so good catching up with Sid recently because I hadn't seen him for a wee while since our last reunions. But a ton of respect for Sid, and he's one of those guys could have and should have gone on to play much more, but he plays so tough. Injuries to his hand and other parts. But basically, I my 2-year contract cut and was stuck in reserve grade to see up the rest of the '95 season. So, Super League coming in, just added another layer of reducing your squad size down to just the one pro team. And so I could have gone off and gone back to England and for '96 and had an opportunity to go and trial for one of the other Super League franchises. But I had part of my contract was this offer I had with DB Breweries.
Right.
Just decided just to focus on things after football, and I thought I'd circle back to Glenora, and apart from the Lion Red Cup in '96 with Counties Manukau.
Another premiership, just by the way.
That '95 season, I knew we had the World Cup because I'd got dropped from the Kiwis. During and missed out on the mid-year in '95 against France.
Okay.
So I thought the writing was on the wall. Luckily, Tonga, there was a spot there still with the Tongan team in the '95 World Cup.
Yep, and that's how when you guys gave New Zealand a real scare. Like the biggest scare of their history, probably at that point. What were you leading, like 24-6 or something, with 8 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go, and unbelievably, the Kiwis come back.
Yeah, it was. It was. Willie Wolfgram scored our first try, and we just started to, just got another one,
Yeah,
and Kiwis were fumbling the ball, making mistakes, running into touch. When does ever Kevin Edo run into touch and get bowled over into touch, and and they didn't really get their game right until the last 15 minutes.
unbelievable that
Because
they got out of jail.
yeah, and yeah, we were gutted actually. We're sitting back and kind of, because in those tournaments, you lose one, you're pretty much out. And
Yeah.
the next game we had Papua New Guinea and it was a draw, but
Oh,
we
really?
weren't able to qualify and go through because of the loss in the draw.
Right. Oh, wow. And you also played at the 2000 World Cup for Tonga as well. So two World Cups for your heritage nation. Is it special pulling on the Tongan jersey? And you beat South Africa. You gave them a bloody hiding. Um, and I think you got two tries in that game too. So what a special way to represent your heritage and your family.
Yeah, it is. It's and it goes back to '86 and
Yeah.
and the family being involved in starting the Tongan competition back in Tonga and also for Matima Tonga.
Yep.
So yeah, the 2000 World Cup and my cousin Nesal is in '95. My cousin George, Nesal's older brother, was able to, and my late cousin Warren. But yeah, still we had the strong family connection in 2000. But then other guys like Willie Mason,
Yeah.
missing out on an Australian jersey, but being able to take a Tongan jersey and represent his heritage. I think he
Correct.
scored most of the tries in that game you mentioned against South Africa.
Yeah.
I think he scored one from kickoff, just ran through everybody. So yeah,
Oh.
he was doing commentary while he was running with the ball. His personality, was like it is today. Andrew,
Oh, mate.
we had some guys coming through who
Yeah.
went on to fabulous rail careers and play for either state or country.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Lomu, he played in that 2002 grand final against the Warriors for the Roosters. I'm actually going to
Yes,
get him on as well.
yeah, very very good, Andrew. He real talent and was one of the hot tickets and as a youngster coming through in Sydney.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I think it was a little bit underrated myself. I think, yeah, just kind of went under the radar for a while there, but it's all right. I remembered him.
Yeah, Solomon Homano, another one.
Oh, he's a
Yeah.
beast. He was a beast, especially his Manly days. Oh my God.
Oh,
What a player.
oh yeah, incredible, and and just supernatural athletes, and some of the guys, when you see some guys, that um, probably not in the gym, in terms of that sort of real quality strength training, and might not have a physique that looks like it, but
Yeah.
you put them up pound for pound, they can move their body and so dynamic and so strong.
Yeah.
Get them on a tackle, and you just hard to hold,
Yeah,
so
man.
powerful.
That Manly back rower, Ola Kawatu, he reminds me of Solomon Hamone for sure. Like they're
Yes,
pretty similar. Yeah, crazy good, crazy good.
I missed
Dave,
out on all those genes.
you said you went back to Glenora and you had three successive Fox Memorials in 97, 98, and 99. How good was it to lift the trophy? You're still going and playing premiership football and still getting the chocolates. How good was that?
I'm super proud of that because and the disappointment of losing your Test jersey and losing your professional contract um, and resigning to, hey, look, by choosing not to go overseas and keep chasing it, I'll stay here. Is I wanted to win a Fox, and and I wanted to win some trophies. So that's why the '96 Lion Red Cup was so important, and then going to the 2000 World Cup with Tonga, I needed some momentum going into that. So in Glenora we had Neil Joyce, who good Māori coach, but had spent a lot of time in Australia. Came back to Auckland and coached us for our first Fox Memorial final. And then Dal Hughes, very good coach, Dal, was able to help us win the second two. But some of the Glenora guys were involved in all three grand finals, and some were involved in one or two. But we were, I didn't want to sort of come in and say, hey, look, we must do this, we must do that, and bring some of this these professional behaviours into the, I sort of had to be a bit of give and take. And we had to have guys who wanted to do it for their own reasons. And from guys like Greg Gasperi, Jonathan Hughes, Steve Buckingham, Ben Lyth, Costa Malamartinos, Aaron Conlon. There's so many good club guys. The further we went on in the first year, the more they could see and feel and touch there's a chance of lifting the Fox. And, when I see clubs like Penrith Panthers, you win one, or, that old saying, if you lose one, how desperate you are get to the next one. Well, all that was true for Glenora. When we won that one in 97, it really sort of gave us and the club and the committee, the hope and the enthusiasm to sort of, just keep seeing how far we can keep going.
Yeah. Does it make you feel like, well, we're the big dogs now, they got to beat us, like, we're the top dogs? Is that how you feel after finally winning?
No, not really. We're the big dogs. It just validates that if you knuckle down and you focus on being a team, because really that's the secret sauce in it. You can't be individuals, and you can't be, all have these different attitudes about what winning takes. And so, you've got to have sort of some agreement on standards and behaviours, and so, the team, that's up to the team to set that, and the coaching staff to sort of guide that and poke and prod and pull and reprimand you. And that's why, Dal Hughes was so good, and Neil Joyce, and they've had good support staff around them. They involved some of the Glenora old boys. Well, they didn't involve, it was inclusive. It wasn't that success and the other truism about success, and it can't just be 17, and when I started playing footy at a senior level, it was the days of two reserves, and once you got on, once you went off, you never got back on. So, to sort of go forward a few more years, it takes more than 17 to win a grand final.
Absolutely, man. So when you look back at your playing career, is there any one particular thing that stands out that fills you with pride, or just something that was super special?
Winning moments, it's another thing about what you realise the more you hang out with other elite players, and that is everyone's so competitive, but everybody expresses it in a different way. Some are just like take a Brendan Tudor, super competitive. It is what it is. You don't need a whole bunch of words. But one time Brendan and I were in England on one of the tours, and we're sitting down having a drink at a bar, and there's this machine on the wall. It's a reaction thing with lights. You've got to push your thumb on a button to stop it before so many lights flash, and it's a sobriety sort of test, So he's having a go at this through the night, and he's getting that angry he can't stop the lights before they get to sort of 5, and then he rips the whole thing off the wall. I says, "What's wrong with you, mate?" "I hate losing."
It's so funny.
So each of the guys, and Logan Edwards is, he will just switch it on, switch it off, and just so casual, but yet, he'll beat you to anything, and you don't even realise he's there first and gone and finished, and you're not even at the start line yet. So, everybody's so different, but what I'm really proud of is enjoying and achieving things, winning moments. We're winning, or sometimes we haven't been lucky enough to win, but now I guess we get to see the successes of. I love nothing more than seeing the success of the guys' kids and where they're getting to. And seeing how they've what they're transferring through into their working life, and how they're doing now. So that's what gives me a real buzz.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. That's so cool. Right, I'm going to finish with a few fun questions that I ask everyone. So I'm going to assume that you follow the Warriors in the NRL. I would assume that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So
always got to follow your own team. Yep.
absolutely. So who do you think's going to win the NRL in 2024?
Yeah. Look, I think the Storm, just the way they are just changing a few things from last season. I think they're building themselves a bit of a buffer there that, you think with Craig Bellamy's experience, he'll be, and this is not them taking their foot off the pedal, but they give themselves a few options now and choices of, how they can play up these last few
Yes.
competition games to get themselves ready for the top 8. But yeah, I think that Penrith stronghold might be coming to an end.
Oh, it's a big call. It's a big. Nathan Cleary's injured, so big call. I like it though. So, what's your favorite TV show or TV series of all time?
I love a game show.
Yeah,
But aside from them, I'm a bit of a Coronation Street tragic.
love it.
I'm not ashamed to say that out loud. Uh, when I was watching Coronation Street before we went over to live in the UK, but it's sort of when I got there, and then you go down, you train during the day and do all the things you need to do, and then I'd go down to local markets and just hang out with the locals and
Yeah.
the neighbours, and so this is Coronation Street. It's real.
Wow, that's so good. All right, I'm putting you down for Coronation Street. All right, last question, man. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, easy choice, mate. No brainer. I'd be eating seafood all day with a cold beer.
I love it, mate. I've so come around to seafood in the last 12 months. I've been eating a lot of it. I love it. It's great. Yeah,
Yeah, mate. I
man.
wish it was good for my height.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Oh, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, man. Going back in the day with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and hear all the stories, man. You're an absolute legend, and just thanks for everything you did for the jersey.
Thanks, Dave, and well done for all your work, mate.
Oh, mate, heaps of fun. Who wouldn't want to do this? That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks everyone for listening. This has been Duane Mann. I've been your host, Dave. We've been back in the day, and we'll see you next time for kickoff.
Full time.